Hey everybody, Mac to Monster here, back with Marvel Heroes, and doing another redo. This time we got Hawkeye, and not much really changed with Hawkeye. I just found my playstyle changing when I was leveling them, and I was doing Wave of Arrows, and then when they went to release from TC to release, the Wave of Arrows just didn't work the way it really should have. It worked a lot better in the test center, which is why I don't like relying on test center so much. And so I went back to an older build, Longbow, one of his old nicknames. And basically the build works quite similarly. But for this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting points in Twin Arrow. Twin Arrow still pays out more damage than Triple Arrow for some reason, but their game. They must know what they're doing for some reason, sure. But so we stay with Twin Arrow, and we're going to put points in Piercing Arrowheads, basically for that damage rating, not for the piercing. And we're going to put points into the Masterful Archery, even though it's got a 59% proc chance. It says there. I think the skill's bugged, and it's been bugged. I think it's about 5% chance proc. But we take it anyways and hope that it's really 59%. I don't think it is. We're going to put points into Shrieking Arrow, and we're going to put points into Tear Gas Arrow. Tear Gas Arrow is going to do a lot of damage, and Shrieking Arrow is going to give us a lot of survivability. It's going to get everything away from us. We're going to put a point into Getaway Roll, make sure we have it. We want to make sure we have 1 point in Freeze Arrow. This is going to be for extra boss utility. And the rest of the points are going to go into combat training. And that's going to give us a little extra evasion and a little extra dodge. And that's going to be the build. What I do for the character on this way, because we are using the Shrieking Arrow, we can definitely stack the ranged damage, the stay away from us damage. So the motion tracker pays off very well. Doing a lot of AoE damage. So Dr. Octopus Medallion yet again pays off quite well. It gives us damage rating and that crit ability. Even though it doesn't work on the Twin Arrow, it's really working on the Tear Gas Arrow and the Shrieking Arrow. And it gives us a bigger explosion on both of those and the Freeze Arrow. I'm using the Jewel of Yggdrasil just for the health regen. I didn't have any Super Soldier Serums, and they're getting fixed, so I use this in the interim. I have Relic of Lemuria. It gives us some survivability. I also have the bow, which is pretty awesome, and the arrow, which is really awesome, and they're really awesome together, so it really makes Hawkeye even that much better. I don't have a good core. It's an alright core. It makes me invisible when I use a med kit, and it gives me +1 speed. I'm really here, 100 health on hit is nice with the basic power, because we're spamming those arrows, Twin Arrow, all the time. And the health, I'd really like the grade 4 to be more health also, but it's not, it's dodge, so I took it because I just don't have tons of credits to dump on spending it on something that's not my main. And we basically want to support any kind of movement speed. We want to, anything like that. Like this is giving us movement speed, this is giving us spirit, and we're going to stay with those abilities. And here we'll go ahead and do the Infamous Kingpins here. 50, it's the predominant green. 49 Taskmaster would be orange. And it can be done, but the orange tends to resist Shrieking Arrow. You're going to find bosses don't necessarily obey the law of Shrieking Arrow as well as Trash does. So that's going to be an issue. For the most part, I'm going to Twin Arrow, simple kills. And anything that gets complicated, that's like too many to kill, I'm going to use the Shrieking Tear Gas technique. So like on this, I will fire those and get everything running after that. As you can see, they're all staring off at my taunting arrow. And that's what I want as I'm spamming my Twin Arrow away. Basically, Shrinking Arrow taunts everything in an AoE radius, which is why we really want that big arc. A Power Prism Shard would be a nice addition for the 4th to get a wider taunt radius. Also, mobs like blues and yellows, for some reason, they just stop obeying. And I think there's a bug with the Shrieking Arrow also where world bosses actually aggro to you from the Shrieking Arrow. I've had like Rhino and certain other bosses, I've fired off that arrow and they just charge me. I was like, whoa. I stopped firing off that arrow and all of a sudden Venom isn't attacking me anymore. That stays on the other guy. Very strange mechanic. Don't think it works well. But it's the only control that you have. So if you think you're about to get overwhelmed, you basically want to drop it. And I'm basically also dropping a tear gas arrow right on top of it, so the dot damage gets applied also. So as you can see, I basically let the Shrieking and the tear gas arrow handle anything that they can, and I pick up anything that they're not attracting. It's not the fastest. It's not slow. It's definitely, pretty easy. And with the extra radius, that taunts almost the screen. So that's pretty nice. The closer you drop them, the faster they actually work. But they do work on where you fire in proportion to the range that you were standing. In other words, with the shield motion tracker, if I fire it here, I could run up to here. The range doesn't change. It stays the same from where it was actually fired. But if everything's coming up on top of you, you basically drop it at your feet and get out of there. So with Masterful Archery having a 60% proc rate, I should be able to fire this twice, like I just did, and there should be a bleed effect on him, but he's not bleeding at all. I'll fire it 3 more times, there should be a bleed effect. Oh, it finally started bleeding, nice. So we'll put that down, he'll obey it for a little while. For added control, I will freeze him once in a while. This is where the freeze arrow comes in. I also don't wait for the arrow to go off. I re-up it every few seconds. I think he ignores the taunt arrow after a few seconds, and a new arrow gets treated as a new arrow and not ignored. So it refreshes his ability to ignore, or his tenacity, or whatever, however it's working in the game at the moment. So on bosses or yellows or anything that's hard, you're going to want to fire off that Shrieking Arrow once every 2-3 seconds easy. It doesn't really cost that much spirit. I mean, it's 40 spirit per shot. I can do it like, what, 9 times? So if I'm doing it every 3 seconds, that's 30 seconds of firing that off. Pretty easy. But that's what you want to do. And that's the Longbow build. So that's what I found most effective while leveling. The Wave of Arrows just didn't, was great low level, was terrible as I started leveling, getting higher level. That obviously works very well. Shrieking Arrow does get ignored by bosses after a certain period of time, so I found every 3-4 seconds the ideal time to fire off the Shrieking Arrow. And it seems like tear gas arrow, even though it says it lasts 10 seconds, it seems like it disappears after 4. So I re-up it anyways, just in case. And then just for added control, I freeze them every now and then as an additional CC that they can't ignore. So that's the Longbow build. Hope it helps. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to y'all later.